Are you lost driving online? Looking for a new destination for audible inspiration? Pull over here. This is Exit 18.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Short, the Executive Director of the New Paltz Regional Chamber of Commerce on the Exit 18 podcast. And my guest today is Todd Fitzgerald. He is the Vice President of FASTSIGNs of Kingston and Wappingers, as well as Artcraft. Growing up as a photo video guy, I've always known his business. And I've known him for years, done some great work for us in the chamber. So, Todd, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure thing. You know, right out of the gate, I got to say, a lot of people have asked with all my Zoom calls and a lot of the podcasts, they're like, where did you get that awesome backdrop right here? Got to give a shout out to FASTSIGNs. Todd was the one that pulled that together. Gilday Creative did the design. Todd executed and actually delivered it to my house. And it gets all kinds of rave reviews. So thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, Todd, FASTSIGNs, what are some of the things that you're doing nowadays? I know there's a lot of different things going on. We were talking earlier about how a lot of the conversation around school being canceled, that a lot of people are graduating this year, but you shared with me something, you know, pretty cool that you're doing. You want to share that with the audience?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just little backstory on it is my daughter is a senior this year. She's one of those kids that worked her butt off in school, like really worked her tail off. Honors. She's been in honors for 8 years and all that fun stuff. And she really deserved the prom, and she really deserved a great graduation. And unfortunately, like many of the other kids deserved, unfortunately, they're not having those, or they're not going to have at least the prom at this point. They're trying to figure out what to do with graduation. And the kids got robbed. So my brother and myself, we were talking about it, and we wanted to do yard signs, put some yard signs out there. So if you've been on Facebook recently, you've probably seen it posted around. It's gotten around pretty well. And it is, we've decided to put together a $15 for a yard sign, double-sided. You can customize it with the child's name on it, so they can put it on the front wall. Something to go ahead and give them recognition. So when they're driving down the street, they see class of 2020. And they feel a sense of accomplishment at least. It's a small token of what can be done, but it is showing support.
That's really cool. Yeah, doing that human side of what's going on right now. A lot of people think you do like big road signs and a lot of different vehicle wraps. I know I had a tour of your facility, but that human touch, that a way to celebrate. I've talked to a lot of different people. A way to celebrate the things that are going on, and that it may be a simple gesture, but I've seen a lot of people with birthdays where, the police and the fire are going by. I think it really speaks a lot to how companies like yourself, municipalities and, other business owners are out there trying to support each other. So I commend you for that. That's pretty cool.
It's been great. We've actually worked with a bunch of schools with doing stickers for all those parades, just as you were mentioning the parades. We worked with a handful of PTOs, PTAs, kind of going and doing all the stickers for all the parades. I think we've done about 7 or 8 schools at this point, where they're just running around from kid to kid, and and they're excited to see it, and it gives a little bit of the school branding, a little bit of I think Chambers did Sting 'em with Kindness, and Cara Durham, they just did the standard "We Miss You" type of scenario, and when you see the videos of it, it's really touching to see that there is a connection with these kids and these students. And this is what we were kind of hoping that would happen, or kind of happened to seniors by doing the yard signs.
It shows that the community is a lot stronger than I think people realize, and we're more connected than ever. And with what's going on right now, that people are realizing that their neighbors and the small businesses that are, right in their backyard are really putting in an effort to try and connect people and stay connected. So, things like that really speak volumes to, where that hometown feel comes from. And that's just like a little piece, like you said, that you guys are doing, but I think it's a huge piece, and it speaks a lot about not only your business, but the community that we live and work in. So that's pretty awesome. I know you mentioned that you're, a big boater, and, a lot of people are, the weather's starting to change. I think this weekend it was almost 80 degrees, 75, 80 degrees. And, you shared with me before we got on the call that there was, a boat that you're working on. Is that one of your private passions, that kind of, a hobby of yours?
It absolutely is. I love boating. I got into it probably about 10, 12 years ago, and I went in head first. I dove right into it, literally. I've absolutely enjoyed it. I've gotten a boat back then, and it was one of the first vehicles we ever wrapped. And I wrapped it. And so yesterday, what I was actually doing, well, went out for a little boat ride with a buddy of mine first, and then I came back and I was actually unwrapping the boat yesterday. It was a nice warm day. The vinyl comes up nice and easy when the sun's on it, and was pulling it off to. I'm gonna, essentially it's gonna look like it's painted green when I'm done with it. I'm taking off one wrap because it got a little beat up. I'm gonna put another one back on.
Oh, that's awesome. So were you cruising the Hudson, or you got a favorite spot where you go?
I love the Hudson because it's right out my back door, and my boat club is literally 3 blocks from my house, which is super convenient. I'm in Port Ewan. I'm fortunate enough to be a member of the Hidden Harbor Yacht Club, and then so the Hudson is my playground. It's been since I was a kid. I grew up on Tilden Street, and so the Dyson. You probably know the Dyson Bakery. The folks over at Dyson Bakery. We were great friends, and we grew up on the water, swimming and everything, playing hide and go seek in that river. So that's always been a wonderful thing. But then more recently, the family has fallen in love with Lake George and Lake Champlain. And we've been
That's awesome.
The boat up there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for ways to kind of, break the stress of their everyday, either if they're working at home or if they're in essential business or, what that looks like. Having some downtime is really important. How do you use your boat to kind of de-stress? Like what is, that's something that I think a lot of people gravitate towards the water, and they're kind of like, they use that as a calming effect. How do you got to incorporate that into your downtime?
I can tell you, it is a complete shift for me. As soon as I step my foot on that dock, it's like there's a wall. I walk through the wall, and it's just pure happiness is on the other side. I've actually, there is that. It is one of those things that is a pure separation for me, and I can just get there and I can just enjoy it. There's something about the wind. There's something about the water. There's something about the sunshine. And you mix all those together, and it's an absolute pleasure. And I can be out by myself or with family, friends, and meeting up with the other 6 other boats on the river, and it's a blast no matter what. I think the separation is necessary for a lot of people. We grind so much every day, especially today with the amount of communication and things that we have. You need that place to be able to show off, and for a lot of people, it can be a book, it can be their backyard, it can be a hammock. For me, it just happens to be a boat.
Now so you're a little bit of a water guy, but then you mentioned you're also attending to your backyard, that it's looking pretty awesome. I mean, obviously it's been raining and then the sun comes out and everything's starting to bloom and blossom. How's your backyard looking?
It's looking a lot better. I made a fatal mistake last year. Last fall, I was like, I gotta get rid of all those weeds. And apparently I might have mixed the grass and weed killer with just the, we normally have the lawn saver, or what do they call it? There's a weed killer for lawns. Well, apparently I might have mixed those up and got the weed killer and grass killer all in one. So when I was going around spraying everything, needless to say, I don't have the prettiest yard, but it's getting a lot better now because I've gone and reseeded and replanted all of it.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, it's those little things. I don't have a green thumb by any means. I'm not.
I've learned. I got the Scott app on my phone. It tells me when to go out and fertilize now and do everything I got to do.
Yeah, I definitely need somebody to hold my hand through that. That's something I've never been good at. I buy plants just to watch them kind of fall apart. So
plastic plants are usually best.
Yes. Yeah, I could just move to Arizona and have dirt and cactus. I'm not really sure. I think that's probably more my speed.
Yep.
So right now, with all this, you mentioned, you use the boat. Yeah, I like how you said, like you step on the dock and you kind of break through that wall, and then you kind of get into, your headspace. You're allowed to separate work from, playtime, and kind of de-stress and kind of reconnect with yourself and your family. And there's one quote that you shared with me that really resonated. And in light of everything that's going on, you said that now's the opportunity to dream. And I think that's a great message for a lot of people. Do you want to expand on that and, where that comes from?
Sure. And I like how you said with the boat, because that is my opportunity, and that's always been my go-to when I wanted to go do some thinking. I always jumped on the boat. But I think a lot of people today now have time to do that. The pandemic that we're going through, has altered our pace, and it allows us to really think and dream about what we want. And I'll say in this case, what we want our businesses to be, what your family life you want it to be, or whatever it may be, you know, in that regard. But you have a true opportunity, and I've taken the opportunity to some extent to redo my business plan, like a real business plan that now actually has a pandemic in it. Whereas before I would have never had that in there as a threat, and it is truly a threat. And so, but now you have the opportunity to dream. So if your business is shut down right now, you've got the opportunity to go ahead and redesign that business. And when you walk into it, or when that customer walks into it for the first time for months, it could be a completely different business. It could be the business that you always wanted it to be, but you were never really able to do because you're always tending to the small details. You have that time for reinvention. And we've been seeing a lot of reinvention in the sun business. We're connected with a lot of businesses, and we've been seeing a lot of people actually finally doing those projects that they've been wanting to do.
I've seen a lot of different things online where people are tackling the inside. You know, you mentioned, you know, when you walk into your business, you know, what do you want it to look like? What do you know, a lot of people, you know, you get up and running, and like you said, you get bogged down, and you know, your business is running, everything's great, but you don't have that little bit of extra time where you can kind of dedicate to yourself.
Yep.
Now's the time where you can actually invest it back in your business. The idea of reinvesting not only your time and your effort back into your business, that was a huge thing, you know, when we were talking about how businesses are looking at who they are and what they want to be. And you mentioned, you know, not only to dream or look at this as an opportunity to dream, but now you can reinvest. Not only reinvent, but reinvest in your company. What are you guys doing at FASTSIGNs to kind of get ready?
Well, FASTSIGNs has changed for us. I mean, our business model has always been, you know, a localized delivery and or installation type of product. And the web aspect, the e-commerce element was never really there. And we're developing an e-commerce solution to some degree now. And in fact, those yard signs, if you go on and click the link, you can actually order them directly off the website. So that's one of the things we're doing with FASTSIGNs, but we're also looking at our business model as a whole, and looking frankly, when because we have, you know, as everybody does, we are down staff considerably right now. But when we bring those staff back, it's going to be a question of what those roles are going to be. We're not just going to bring back what we had. We're going to bring back for what we want, and we want the business to be. So when we rehire, it's going to be, you know, we're going to utilize all of the talent that we have as best as we possibly can. But we're going to set a different path. There's some secrets in there that I don't want all my competitors to know, but we are setting a different path, and I think that is what, you know, in our craft too. We're going to be doing the same thing with our craft. I can tell you the hours and the days of operation are going to change for our craft. The business model as a whole is going to change. When you walk into the store, it's going to look different. And frankly, we're buying equipment right now for that business. And when we do launch that new model, it is a different business. It's not just, and as we talked about the reinvestment, it's not just doing a name change or moving some counters around. It's actually resetting the business model. We have that opportunity to dream of what we want to do. And frankly, we've got the time to take the action, because this isn't, you know, we still have a handful of weeks before we're really going to open back up.
Yeah. Well, now you've been in business for about 33 years, right? You started pushing a broom with your
yeah.
You started, you know, with your camera stores, you know, Artcraft and different things like that. Give us a little bit of background on how reinvention kind of happened during those years.
So we were, if you know our family, and we've been in Ulster County and Orange and I guess Sullivan and Albany and a handful of different businesses. So we had Artcraft, which and anybody who goes back a long ways might remember Camera Rack and a couple other things. But our business, everything we had was always a media of some sort, of which changed, whether it be photography. Think of photography in the 70s. Think of it in the 80s, and then think of the 90s when things started to shift into 2000s, where you know, it wasn't a digital. We went from film to digital cameras to cell phones. We were also in the video rental industry, so VHS tapes, DVD. Now try to go find a video store. Even red box is going away. So it's, you know, we've had to reinvent and turn our model so many times. In the photo business, I would tell you, it was a yearly change. It was, you know, we had meetings okay, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And the video business, that was a little bit more, you know, we kind of saw that one coming. But with the photo business, we ultimately getting out of cameras, and we were like, okay, what do we do? what do we do really well? And you had to do a little soul searching to figure out what it was. And for us, it was printing. And so that's how we got into the sign business, because we were great at printing. So what else can we print? When we looked around with what was needed, and at that time, nobody was doing vehicle wraps. And that's how we got into the sign business. We started doing vehicle wraps.
Interesting. So what would be, you have any ideas? It sounds like the ability to kind of identify your surroundings and kind of see where that is. And you said something there where you have to be a little bit humble and look at it and say, all right, what are we missing? Or what are the opportunities that we can, if we're really good at, I know one of the things I share with a lot of, when I speak in public or do different things is double down on your strengths. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did.
It is, and that's what we did. And back when we had to do this, and when all the times that we did it back then, it was very localized. You had to look at your local market. Today it's different. It's not just a local market anymore. I mean, with e-commerce that's available to us, whether it be a Wix, whatever website you want to go to, whether it's a Wix or whoever, you can build an e-commerce business like that, or you can even start with an Etsy tomorrow or today, and you'll have a business completely up and running. So if you really know what you like to do and you're good at it, it is probably the easiest time in history to open a business.
Yeah, I would agree.
It really is.
I would definitely agree. What do you think is the first step where a lot of people get hung up? Sometimes we get caught in our own heads and we're like, all right, here's a great idea. And then you're like, this is awesome. And then you sleep on it and you wake up the next day and you're like, I don't know, right? I do that a lot with buyer's remorse. I come up with crazy ideas. And then the next day I'm like, is that a good idea? When you're trying to reinvent yourself, especially in something like today, right? We're talking about going more online and trying to embrace the technology that we have. What's step one for you? When you shifted from film to digital and then the idea of going, to printing to vehicle wraps, like what was step one when you had to reevaluate that, position for your company?
Is there a market for it? Is there a market? That is, you can have all the great ideas in the world. It might make sense to you. And it might be really, it might be the thing you absolutely want, but does anybody else want it? And if the answer is no, move on. Or if you can't monetize it enough to fulfill the dreams that you have, for that business, then move on. And I guess it comes down to, is there enough need? And years ago, I said, okay, well, look at the demographic of Ulster County, look at the demographic of Kingston, and do they have a need for a sign company? Now, today, it's not that. It's like, okay, let me look at New York State. Let me look at the Northeast, or let me think about the products that I want to sell and how far I can ship them, and how effectively I can ship them at what rate, and can I be competitive? And then that's your market. So the market is completely different than what it used to be, and that's the reason why I think it is the easiest time to open business.
Do you think that there's, what was the biggest hurdle when you were doing that reinvention and you're looking at market share and you're looking at profitability? What was the biggest hurdle for you to kind of break through to sort of get that ball rolling with the new idea when you're talking about market share and how that goes? What was that one piece of, or what was that one obstacle that you had to kind of either come to terms with or break through to get to the other side?
So with the photo business to the sign business, it was the brand. We were known as Artcraft Camera for years, no matter what. It was Artcraft Camera. Today, I'll just say at the Artcraft business right now, I still have everything going to my cell phone, so I can still take all the phone calls that are coming in. And people are calling me for accessories for their tripods and everything else still. And we haven't sold camera in 5 or 6 years. And we took the brand camera out 9 years ago. So when we decided to make the switch over to FASTSIGNs, well, before FASTSIGNs, we did Artcraft vehicle graphics, and we couldn't break that department away from the Artcraft brand. So for the change from the photo business to the sign business, we had to actually make the decision to give up a brand that we had developed for 30 plus years. We had to walk away from that brand, and that was the most difficult decision we've ever made in our history, because to give up something that it's almost tattooed on me at this particular point, with how much we bled that, and to give that up, and then to change that name as well. So it went from Artcraft Camera to Artcraft PhotoWorks, and then FASTSIGNs. This way we could do a complete separation of the two brands, and that was difficult. And thinking outside of that brand and wrapping your head around it, and then making that decision, that was our most difficult decision.
So when people are trying to reinvent their brand, not just only their business, how do you feel, what did it feel like when you gave that up, right? So the idea of like you invested all that time and effort in there, but obviously you're now vastly successful for what you're doing, and giving up that little piece of history there, that kind of shifted, your brands. What did that feel like? How did you kind of come to terms with the idea that, all right, we have to adjust, we have to be agile, and we have to, maybe even create a new brand that ties into our skill set?
Well, it was difficult. It was difficult a couple senses. For one, we're a family business, so it was a difficult conversation to have with Dad, as you can imagine. Because he has that legacy, and you're afraid of losing that legacy. Where for us, I think what we took comfort in is that we knew we could build off of the new one, and we could dream off of that new one, and we weren't limited to what the history was associated with that. And I think that made it, once we made that decision, it got a lot easier to do, or to create the business that we wanted to create. And yes, FASTSIGNs is a franchise. And when we originally started, we were very skeptical about going with it. But we are true, we're a mom and pop shop that happens to be a franchise. And that is one of the reasons why we decided to go this way, because we have all the support mechanisms. And we were looking for, to get as much support as possible. I mean, the chambers are great and everybody else is great, but within our industry, the chamber couldn't help me and tell me, okay, when you go from RGB to CMYK, this is the problem you're going to have. And that's where we had that instant, that knowledge base that sat behind us. And that's why, the switch was a little bit easier for us in that regard.
Right. What do you think when we're talking about that change, when you have to kind of take stock in, what your skill set is, what advice would you give a business right now that's kind of looking at, down 6 months, a year down the road on what their business could be, but they might be kind of struggling with the idea of pivoting a skill set? A lot of people, I always use the term that you're more than just your business card, right? You're more than just your title, that there's more to you and your business. So what advice would you give to a business right now that's, thinking about some of the things that you're talking about, but afraid to kind of take that first step? What would you say to them?
Educate yourself. Absolutely educate yourself. You have an opportunity to sit down right now and educate yourself. If you own a business and you are a Netflix junkie right now, it's okay to melt an hour here and an hour there, but not do it all day. Right now, YouTube, you've got all these resources that are online to go ahead and build your craft, to get more invested in what you do. So this way, when you do come back, you're bigger and you're better. And you've got the knowledge sitting behind you. That would be the first thing is, take this time to educate, take this time to reinvent, take this time to go ahead and really plan out what the future looks like. And with a plan A and a plan B. Plan B always sucks compared to plan A. It absolutely does. But have it. So in this way, if something does change, you have a pivot point, and you can rebound if you did make a mistake. And all dreams don't always work out. And that's why that plan B is helpful. Today, I really think we need to take the opportunity to look at our businesses and frankly, just, as you said, make that pivot point today or last week or in the month or whatever week that you're going to open back up, and be the business that your clients want, as well as the business you want to be. Because if you're not going to be happy in it, you're just turning the lights on in the morning, and that's not good for you. I want to feel like I'm on my boat all the time, and so if you can get yourself to a point where you're really enjoying what you're doing, and if you were in the daily grind and you were just pumping out, you got to make that change now, and you have the opportunity.
That's great. I love how you said, be the business that you want and be the business that your clients, want as well. So that's some great stuff. What's the best way for everyone to get a hold of you if they have any questions or, looking for you to help them out with some of their projects?
Sure. Email is always great. It's Todd, Fitzgerald@FASTSIGNs.com. If you just type in FASTSIGNs in Google, it's going to show you the two closest ones. They're going to be mine. One is Wappingers, one is Kingston. And then if you want to give me a call now, if you have immediate needs, my phone number is 845-331-5800.
That's awesome. Todd, thank you so much for talking to us today. This is really cool. I love the idea of now's the opportunity to dream and make your business what you want it to be. I think that's great words in a time like this where there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that'll resonate with a lot of businesses out there today. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So stay tuned. We're going to have some more discussions with some awesome business owners here on the Exit 18 podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.